Robinson. So you can see that we have some serious work ahead of us in the time we have this afternoon. We're going to drill down on these 8 essential points, guidelines, principles, standards, call them what you will, so that climate justice is not just a phrase. It's not just a bit of jargon. It has some substance behind it. And I'm going to now introduce you to Martin Frick, who's the Deputy CEO of the Global Humanitarian Forum, based in Geneva. He does all the hard work. I can't tell you how many hours he works every day. Tell us about the GHF, and tell us more about what you've got in your hands and what all of you have got in front of you. Have a look at that paper.
Thank you very much, Nisha, and thanks to all of you for coming today. You see a lot of scribbling here. I try to be very, very brief. Maybe 2 sentences about the Global Humanitarian Forum. We are a new foundation founded in 2007 by Mr. Anand, the Swiss federal government, and a group of 25 eminent board members, including Mary Robinson. We got guidance in October 2007 to focus on the human impact of climate change. So our first conference in June 2008 was called The Human Face of Climate Change. And we tried to do what the Archbishop just so wonderfully did, to give human face to climate change. The opening discussion of this conference was entitled Climate Justice in a Shared Global Ecosphere, and it was indeed Mary Robinson moderating this session. We got a lot of positive feedback for framing climate change as what it really is, a human issue. And this is why we convened a working group to look into more detail what that means, climate justice. We had a wonderful group of some 20 experts from human rights backgrounds, but also from ethics background. That was chaired by Professor Stückelberger, who is with us today, and I'd like to thank him for his fantastic work. So this group came up with 8 essential points, what this group believes is really essential to make climate justice happen. You have the paper in front of you. I'm not going to repeat every single point, but maybe one remark for every point to give you a little bit of background from this working group. The first point is take responsibility for the pollution you cause. And as Mr. Anand said, this is really at the heart of climate justice. There is an intergovernmental panel for climate change, and they came up with a report in 2007 that for the first time said in a consensual manner, yes, climate change is made by human beings. We are responsible for climate change. It is pollution. It is the pollution that causes climate change, the emission of greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide. And since we know we have to take responsibility for our pollutions, pollution must have a price, the polluter must pay. The second point is act according to your capability and capacity. You cannot ask more from people than they are able to do. However, there is no right to pollute. We have to save this. We have to protect this planet. So everybody has to contribute, but we have to take into consideration to which extent people can contribute. The third point is share benefits and burdens. And having just heard Mary Robinson, I would like to add in an equitable manner, because that really is what it's about. We are all living on this planet. There is nobody who has more or less right to take the natural resources and to use the natural resources for our life. So the benefits and burden have to be shared in an equitable manner. The fourth point is respect and strengthen human rights. Last year we celebrated 60 years of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, one of the greatest accomplishments of mankind, I dare to say. So when we are tackling and when we are dealing with climate change, I think mankind cannot afford to ignore these standards. They must guide us. The fifth point is reduce risk to a minimum. And this really has 2 aspects. One is, as the Archbishop said, the poorest have no capacity to cope. They don't have insurances. They are the most exposed to risk, and we should bear that in mind. The second point is political decision-making needs an assessment of risk. You have to know what the result of your action is. Scientists today tell us we are coming very close to a point where things get completely out of control. How can a responsible political decision making produce results where we don't even know where they're going to lead us? The sixth point excuse me, is integrate solutions. That means we have to address climate change from different angles at the same time with the same priority. Obviously, we have to bring down our emissions drastically and fast. But at the same time, there is so much carbon dioxide already in the atmosphere that even theoretically, we would all board an aircraft and leave this planet for good. The weather would continue to change. The climate would still be different. So we have to help vulnerable people to be less vulnerable, to build resilience much affected by the changing climate, because it will change. And the third point in that integrate solutions is transfer of technology. We need new technologies, and they have to be shared from the first moment on, because we cannot afford that this is delayed. The seventh point is act in an accountable, transparent, and reliable manner. And again, 2 points there. Thank you. One is about participation. You have to have participation of everybody in every society. You need to hear the voices of indigenous people. You need in particular hear the voices of the poorest. Only if you do that, you can come up to a solution that works globally. And the second aspect is, in international negotiations, you don't go far without trust. You have to build this trust, and that means keep your promise. So the last point is very simple. It's act now, and it's self-explanatory. But it's even more pressing today, since in the last month we learned a lot of more scientific evidence which really tells us climate change is happening much faster than even insiders thought 2 years ago. Every month we hear new predictions from scientists telling us, again, we have to correct ourselves. It's happening now, it's there, act quickly. Thank you very much.